Hi, I'm Anquinette Crosby. We have a great show in store for you. Today, I'm here on location in Old Town Alexandria.
This charming historic district was founded in 1749. It's filled with tasty restaurants, quaint little shops, and fun cultural venues. It also has a spectacular view of the Potomac River. It's home to the Torpedo Factory Art Center. We'll explore Old Town throughout the show.
But first, welcome to Artico Art in your community. Welcome back. You know, we are very fortunate to have so many museums and galleries in our area.
And a big part of that scene is the Smithsonian Museum complex. Many of us visit the National Gallery or the Hirshhorn. But have you ever wondered who builds those amazing dioramas? And who sculpts the mannequins, designs, and builds display cases that support and protect all that priceless work? Well, we were curious too, so off we went to visit a facility in Landover, Maryland few know about, Smithsonian Exhibit. Their motto is develop, design, build.
We're standing in a exhibit production slash storage facility in Landover, Maryland. We have about 300,000 square feet here, and Smithsonian Exhibits takes up about 50,000 square feet. Smithsonian Exhibits is a service organization for the entire institution. We provide exhibit development, writing, design, project management, exhibit production for public-facing projects within the institution. Oh wow, everything at the Smithsonian Exhibits is unique. Most exhibits are one-offs, meaning they're done only in one multiple. Some of the work can be making a mannequin for a museum or creating brackets for the African American History and Culture Museum, which we did, to designing a logo. So the work is very varied. We partnered with the Hirshhorn Museum to help them in the building of the Kosama exhibit. We built one of the installation rooms in which the artist placed her pieces. We also helped in the installation. The entire institution is our client, so we work for all the museums across the board. They could be for the Environmental Research Center out in Edgewater, Maryland, to the Hirshhorn, the National Postal Museum, African American History and Culture, American History Museum, Natural History Museum. Really, you name a museum, we've worked there. There are about 40-some staff at Smithsonian Exhibits that work here, from developing the ideas through production.
I work in fabrication and I build the case structures. That's my primary role. So we use sheet goods to make the case work, and then we also use a lot of acrylic and plexiglass, because oftentimes there are clear box structures that are on top of the cases to protect the objects.
Right behind me is a small exhibit for the National Postal Museum on Hamilton. This will be opening in the next couple of weeks. We are designing for the Smithsonian Gardens for their upcoming orchids exhibition in January. And in production, we have some models being made for the Outbreak exhibit at Natural History Museum. So those will be touchable models of different viruses. I've been here 36 years, and I would say almost every project is unique and has its own challenges for different reasons. I recall building a model for Tatlin's Tower for the Hirshhorn, and the challenge was to get it out of the building. It was so large. Before we moved to this space in 2008, we had built the diorama for the elephant at the Rotunda in Natural History. But our space was so limited in size that we never could put the diorama all together at one time. And there were 7 very large pieces. So only during installation did we actually get to assemble it, and it fit like a glove. Everything one sees in an exhibit has been planned out, from the words to what the words are on, what the substrate is, to the details in the mounts for the objects. So that is, by and large, the most surprising thing that curators or our clients find.
What a cool place. And you know what? Another cool place is the Torpedo Factory Art Center right behind me. And yes, it was actually a torpedo factory during World War II. So let's take a look inside.
Today, it's home to 82 artist studios, which makes it the largest collection of publicly accessible studios in the U.S. All types of artists are represented, from jewelers to painters to printmakers. You can check out the Torpedo Factory calendar for other events, including live music and exhibit openings.
The Cherry Blossom is a private boat that takes sightseers up and down the Potomac, but it was a visit to a musical petting zoo that brought Benjamin Gates together with his beloved cello.
Later, as a member of the DC Youth and Hampton University orchestras, he fine-tuned his musical skills. Today, he performs for audiences all around the DC area, including a special appearance on the PBS series Mercy Street. But no matter what, he always makes time to give back to the community.
I've been a cellist for 22 years. The technique that I use is the Suzuki method, which is identifying a song by its key and then being able to create a melody or an actual rhythm section around that. I use the electric cello for my performances where I'm using live track work, and the reason being is because you have a lot more control of the frequency that actually comes off of the instrument. So that means if you don't want the instrument to have as much body where an acoustic will, because it's a hollow instrument, the electric, because it's more of a skeletal structure, allows you to actually fine-tune those frequencies to the songs that you'll be playing with or any bands that you'll be playing with. For the studio work that I'm doing right now, I'm using the acoustic instrument in particular because I like the way that that instrument gels with the digital sounds over the electric. I perform jazz, classic rock, metal, modern hip hop, R&B. I've performed at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. I performed at the African American Museum of Prince George's County. I performed at the Institute of Peace. I played for national dignitaries, ambassadors. So those are just a few of the places that I've performed. Mercy Street, that was a fantastic opportunity. I got to experience what it was like to actually be on the set for television production. The scene that they hired me to play in, I was playing an acoustic cello, and it was manuscript music that they wanted me to read along with one other violinist who was also contracted to do that scene for Mercy Street. The production company that we have right now is in its infancy. The name of it is Asteroid Titanium Musical and Productions, LLC. And the platform was created to be able to be an answer to the question about how do we bring music to children who are in the inner city of Washington, D.C., and not just D.C., but other cities as well, whether that be getting them involved in musical production, whether that's getting them involved in the newer ways of using musical instruments today, partnered with the newer technologies. The street performances I actually don't do all too often. I try to get out there when I can or when I actually have a slot in my schedule to be able to go out. And the reason being is because at the end of the day, I feel like it's a great community outreach. I want to be able to make sure that I can take these experiences that are in a venue and be able to bring them back to the streets where I can, to people, so they can still, you know, possibly get the culture that they might get going to an arena stage or from a performance from a museum in the city. I believe that as a musician, when it comes back down to community, we do have a responsibility to get back in and to help where we see that there are issues brought forth. The charity work that we've been able to do, again, being able to go back to schools, being able to go back to citizen homes and things of that nature, being able to do music therapy, which we have done at Kaiser Permanente and other medical centers outside of that. And then what we also do, the thing that's really big, is every single winter we throw a drive to be able to get hats, scarves, gloves, and socks where we can get out on the streets of Washington, D.C. and to be able to distribute those belongings to people that really need it, who are less fortunate. If you want to reach out and talk to us or for an event or anything like that, we would welcome that and we would be honored. The website is www.asteroidtitanium.com. If you would like to actually keep up more in line with what it is that we're doing, whether it's doing events or going around the city or working out of the house to make new tracks, that would be at Instagram, Benjamin Gates 0. You can also find me on Vimeo if you search for Benjamin Gates, electric cellist in Washington, D.C.
This next artist's work is going to blow you away. Tim McFadden fell in love with glass blowing while in college.
Today, he owns a successful studio and gallery in Baltimore, and his work is sold and exhibited around the world.
Every piece has a different process to it, but essentially you're getting glass out of a furnace. That kind of gives you the mass. There's different color applications to get like a different look. So you're either drizzling glass on there, laying out stripes, rolling them up to get concentric lines. You're putting powders or like little chips of glass so you can get texture. So it really depends on what you're trying to make, but you're starting with glass. You're doing some kind of color application if you don't want it to just be clear, and then from there you're forming and shaping and blowing it into the different shapes. Essentially you need a furnace with glass in it, you need a reheating drum, and you need a kiln so that you can cool the glass slowly, and you need a bench and some hand tools. That's pretty much all you need to get started to start a glass studio. We do a lot of custom work, so sometimes people come to us with ideas, and then our job is just to figure out what process do you do to get what they're envisioning. And then we make a lot of stuff that we want to make that we find either technically challenging or a new technique or a new form that we're experimenting with. We do, like small animals and ornaments all the way up through large scale installations and chandeliers. Somebody might say, I have this space, it's a certain size. We wanted to have a certain theme, or they go, we have this space, and tell us what you think might look good in this space, and you get a little artistic freedom. Our job as craftsmen and artists is to, really kind of combine everything to get a nice finished product. We have the studio here where we host field trips, summer camp groups, retirement communities. Anybody that's interested in learning glass, making glass, just seeing the process. We also have a mobile glass blowing studio, so we can go to schools, we can go to other locations and do demonstrations or hands-on activities. When you're making glass, you're working with equipment that's over 2,000 degrees, with pipes that are metal that conduct heat a little bit, with hand tools that are metal that can conduct heat. So there's always, the chance that you can touch something too hot. With our classes here, especially when you're first learning, you're always working with an experienced glass artist to make sure that you get it through having fun and safely. If you take the right precautions and you handle things properly and you learn properly, then there's nothing to worry about. Glass blowing has been around for thousands of years. And that's the hard part, is constantly trying to find new techniques, making things that are like brand new and unique and people have never seen before. One thing we started doing was you blow the glass off of a blowpipe and you break it off and the glass is finished and polished and whatever. With ours, it's a removable insert, so you can blow the glass off a piece of copper and then you can essentially unscrew it and the copper stays embedded in the glass. This allows you to have an airtight, watertight seal with the glass on the copper, so we make like waterproof lighting, we make like faucets for sinks, so that is one thing that we have a patent on that nobody's ever done that. What's most fascinating about glass blowing is, I mean, the material itself it's almost like magic, the process. You know, just trapping an air bubble and the physics of, you know, the air expanding. You're essentially like sculpting with fire. There's not a lot of materials that are as versatile as glass, as colorful and transparent, but then also you can make things that are really structurally sound. I just feel like of all the materials I've worked with, it's the most versatile and again, the most fluid and the most fun for me personally in terms of creating art.
June is the beginning of summer. It's Black Music Month, Pride Month, and Caribbean Heritage Month. So there's a lot to do.
There are several musical festivals to mark Caribbean American Heritage Month. On June 23rd and 24th, it's Zen Live Kings of Soca. June 29th and 30th, Ultra Glow Wicked in White. Also on June 30th, the Nirvana Ultimate Outdoor Music Fest. Get the details at dccarnival.com.
Caribbean people have contributed so much to the development of the United States of America. From Alexander Hamilton to Marcus Garvey, we have had so many contributions to the development of this country. Unfortunately, not everybody is aware of that. So it's really important to highlight the contributions that not just immigrants, but that Caribbean immigrants have had on this country.
Signature Theater presents The Scottsboro Boys. It's based on the true story of 9 African-American teenagers that were snatched off a train in 1931. They were falsely accused of rape. Without due process, they were tried and sentenced to death. This dynamic production sheds a light on the ongoing issues of our time. The award-winning musical runs through July 1st in Signature's Max Theater.
What a fantastic production. The Sandy Springs Slavery Museum and Arts Gallery is a cultural gem in Montgomery County.
It displays the history of African Americans past and present in an accessible and intimate setting.
I looked upon this community and found it a fascinating area, a little enclave of black people. I had a little farm and decided that we would transform this farm into a museum. Mostly because in respect for the heritage and the activities of the black people in this community who survived against all odds in a largely white Quaker community.
This kinship community of Sandy Spring, the people who have lived here and who were slaves here, their families still reside on this property today. And that is why Dr. Anderson chose this particular plot of land to build this museum.
The focus of the museum is to on the heritage and the origins of black people, from the origins in Africa, across the transatlantic trade, survival in the United States, the struggles for civil rights, and the achievements and how they affect the culture of this entire country. I just want to talk about this piece that you see behind here, because it really tells the focus of the museum. So this is a piece of relief art that I did at night while during my days at Howard. Here we have the Africans living this very quiet and pastoral and peaceful life here. Then somebody comes with a Bible and a bag, captures them and transports them across the Atlantic in the upper panel that you see here. Then they come to this country and they build America. Then you have a picture of, say, me or some black male here. Here he is, he's nicely dressed, he has pointed shoes and nice socks and so forth, yet still, and he has a diploma in his hand, yet still he's under pressure. See all those hands reaching at his neck, his tongue is hanging out. He is still enslaved. The art gallery and the museum are all one. The collection that you see here are all of those that I collected for over 50 years. And the museum is based around this collection. We have relief art showing the bottom of the slave ship. We have art in form of stained glass pieces and a broad array of African arts from the contemporary times to past times in the Mandela hut that's outside.
Every day there are different exhibits to see because you can't see everything just in one day. There are also 2 special events coming up, Montgomery County Heritage Days. We'll have live performances, tours of the museums, we'll be making quilts, and everyone is invited to come and make a section of the quilt, which we will then hang in an exhibit in the fall.
This is here 31 years ago, long before that magnificent museum that we have in Washington dealing with the same subject. The only difference, I think, is that this museum allows you to feel and touch and be part of the museum.
For more than 37 years, the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington has promoted equality, justice, and tolerance through song, while making people smile while they do it.
Back in about 1980, the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus came on tour to Washington, D.C., and there were a few folks in the audience that night who were inspired by that, and they walked out and they said, we need to start something like that here in Washington, D.C., and they did, and so it started with a few friends getting together to sing, and now 37 years later, we are the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington. Whether we're singing for a school, or at a senior center, or at a beautiful venue like the Barns at Wolf Trap, we have a theme to our music. And the song could be any song, but when you have a group of out, proud LGBTQ members singing it, it takes on a new voice. We share stories between songs, and we talk about what the song might mean to us. We might address the current political climate and how it affects equality, or in some cases it threatens some rights.
But more often than not, it's for equality. For me,
I believe that every time we take the stage, we promote equality just by our positive presence. It's hard to have a negative reaction to men standing up there proudly and making beautiful music together.
Baby, I have no story to be told, but I heard one on you, now I'm gonna make your head.
I had a very good friend, and he ended up committing suicide because his parents were not able to handle him being gay. So I fell into a depression of sorts and just did not go out. I became a total introvert. And some friends that I had at the time coerced me into going out and singing karaoke. And I met a lot of people from all walks of life, and some of those people were members of the Gay Men's Chorus. And they invited me to come in and audition. And so 14 years later, here I am.
Every year we perform about 80 times throughout the year. We sing for everything from the Walk to End HIV. We have sung for presidential inaugurations. We have sung on the steps of the Supreme Court. The day that, for example, the day that national marriage equality became national law.
Being in the Gay Men's Chorus, and in particular my small ensemble, POTOMAC Fever, has given me just an incredible number of memorable experiences. We've performed in Cuba, we've spent a week in Ukraine at the behest of the State Department, we've sung at the White House and met President Barack Obama, just memories that I'll never forget.
At tonight's performance, we have 4 of our small ensembles, and the reason we have small ensembles is it's pretty tough to find a stage where you can have all 300 singers fit. But we have a show like this once a year. We can feature them and showcase them. So tonight we have the Rock Creek Singers, we have POTOMAC Fever, we have our new dance company titled 17th Street Dance, and then we have one of our newer groups also titled Seasons of Love. They are a gospel and inspirational group.
When I first joined the chorus, it was a predominantly white organization, and that was because these were people who felt able to be out in the crowd. my being able to be on stage, be a soloist, be a dancer sometimes, and be in front, and to show people that I am an out and proud gay man of color living in Washington, D.C., has allowed not only me to excel as an individual, but the chorus to excel as an organization.
It's a family. It's a chosen family. My personal family lives far away in the Midwest, but I spend more time here with the chorus than I do with anybody else. 2 hours a week on Sundays with the chorus, 3 hours actually, and then 2 hours with my small ensemble on Mondays, and plus dozens of performances every year.
I think when people come together and hear us sing and they hear our message, we hope that via song we're able to change minds and open hearts.
You can see the changes in the people's faces. They might start out being a little grumpy and not really happy that they're there, and then 20 minutes later they're smiling, and you feel like you're making a difference.
The harmony says it all, just beautiful. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in Old Town Alexandria. I'm Anquanette Crosby, and until next time, always remember to follow your art.
This program was produced by WHUT, Howard University Television, and made possible by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.